Hi, the devotions for today come from Psalm 119, verses 57 to 64, which read, "The Lord is my portion. I promise to keep your words. I entreat your favor with all my heart. Be gracious to me according to your promise. When I think on my ways, I turn my feet to your testimonies. I hasten and do not delay to keep your commandments. Though the cords of the wicked ensnare me, I do not forget your law. At midnight I rise to praise you because of your righteous rules. I am a companion of all who fear you, of those who keep your precepts. The earth, O Lord, is full of your steadfast love. Teach me your statutes." Looking back at verse 58, we find these words, "Be gracious to me according to your promise." How comforting it is to hear David put his trust in God's promise of grace. David learned many lessons in his life of service to God, but David's trust in God's grace came not from David's promise to keep God's words in verse 57, nor did David presume God's grace for himself because of his ways of keeping God's commands. David knew himself too well to trust in his own work to earn God's favor and grace. We do well to learn from David two things. That yes, we do strive to keep God's commands, but we do so because of the love of God that fills the whole earth, as he says in verse 64. We also seek to keep faith with the statutes of God, but we do so knowing, along with David, that we trust God's grace only because of God's promise to us and not because of any work on our part. I find it always humbling to see throughout the Old Testament that God's promise has been from of old and that his grace is granted from his goodness to those who trust not in themselves, but in his promise. That is what we do here. We trust in that promise, and we come together in worship to give praise for all of God's gracious promises. And on that note, let me give you a quick reminder that we have returned to in-person worship, and we will gather at 10:30 in the sanctuary this Sunday, September 6th. Also, Adult Sunday School will be at 9:15 in the Fellowship Hall. Again, reminding you that this Sunday is also Communion Sunday, for which we give thanks, as we take time to prepare our hearts and minds to come to the Holy Supper, to partake of God's grace through his promises. Remember also, we need everyone to wear a mask every Sunday for church, and we will have extras if you forget yours. Again, I'll say it, we're glad to be back together, but we want to do so wisely and with respect for each other's health. God's blessings to you today. Goodbye.